Okay, I think we'll get started, just conscious of everybody's time. So thank you all for taking the time to attend this webinar this morning. It is so nice to see that we've got so many people on and interested in how we can keep our pupils engaged in their learning during this very difficult and uncertain period. We do have a mixture of teachers, teaching assistants, school representatives from the SLT on the line, so we are going to try and make this webinar as applicable for everybody as possible, but there will be time for you to ask your questions throughout, and we'll take some time to let Hannah or myself answer those at the end. So I'll just make a couple of introductions first. So on your right, you've got myself, who will be your host today. My name is Olivia. I have been working at Zen Educate for just under a year, and I work in our school success team as an account manager. I specifically work with our special needs schools, our alternative provisions and pupil referral units. My job is to really work with members of the SLT to support them in recruiting the best quality staff for the needs of their pupils, whether that be for a day-to-day supply or whether that be for actually a longer term position within the school. Prior to this, I worked across numerous different special schools and APs, supporting children and young people, mainly with severe nonverbal autism, PMLD, and traumatic backgrounds, so children and young people who have some social, emotional, or mental health difficulties. On your left, you've got the lovely Hannah, who we are delighted to have here today with us. Hannah is the head of science at TBAP Unity Academy, which is a social, emotional, and mental health based secondary school. She works with challenging learners who've been excluded from mainstream education for a variety of different reasons. And she is teaching them science and art. She's a fine art graduate, all the way from Key Stage 3 through to GCSE. So we will be your host and your guest speaker today, and if you do have any questions, then we will be hopefully in positions to answer them. So please do feel free to follow us and Hannah on social media as well, and tweet throughout this webinar. Our Twitter handle is obviously at Zen Educate, and Hannah's is here on the right as Miss MSci World. Hannah also has a YouTube channel, which you'll find out a lot more about in her presentation. But please do, if you want to share any of your thoughts, your learnings, your feedback on today's webinar, please do use Twitter or any of the other social medias and use the hashtag Zen Educate. Social media is also a fantastic way to find out more about the upcoming webinars that Zen will be hosting over the next coming months. We have a couple already up in line. So the next one will be a panel on how how schools are going to manage their recruitment and staff management during this difficult time. So we'll be hearing from some of our own Zen advisors who've got years in the education industry, and we'll also be hearing from a couple of head teachers who are already starting to plan for remote recruitment for September. The next one will be on trauma-informed teaching, which will be led by myself, and then we'll be also having the implementation of Google Classrooms and much more. But we are very open to suggestions, so if there's anything that's really top of mind for you right now as a teacher or as a member of SLT, please do get in contact, say that you'd like to learn more about X topic, and we can design some content around that to help you learn more. So a quick agenda for this morning. So we're just going to run a little bit through about what Zen Educate is and how we work. And then I'm going to hand over to Hannah, who will talk you through how she's been engaging learners through music, some of the challenges she's faced during remote teaching, and actually what these future implications might look like now that we're all getting used to teaching our students via webcams and via different online learning platforms. And then, as I mentioned, there will be a question and answer session at the end. So thank you to everybody who's already sent in some questions ahead of time. They're fantastic. But we will also be monitoring the chat box throughout this webinar. So if you do have any questions, please do type them in the chat box or in the Q&A section. And we can hopefully come to as many as we can by the end. We are aiming for this webinar to sort of finish up around between 9:30 and 10:15. So if we don't get to every question, I do apologise in advance, but we will make time. If you have a burning question, please do either email me or tweet us, and we will make sure that you get an answer to that question shortly afterwards. So a little bit about Zen Educate first before I hand over to Hannah. So Zen Educate is a social enterprise who are dedicated to supporting schools of all types, whether that is a mainstream primary or secondary, your alternative provisions or a special school, operating across London, Manchester and Birmingham to find the best quality teaching staff for their pupils, but also to save money in the process. Making us a much more ethical alternative to your traditional recruitment agencies. We've eliminated the traditional high agency fees that I'm sure some of you are all aware of. And we've been able to do this because we have an online platform. And to date, we've saved schools over £1 million in supply and recruitment costs. So as I mentioned there, we've got an online portal where schools can log in and teachers can log in as well to view their local community of teaching staff. SLT members are able to view these the teachers and teaching assistants in their local area, filter by key stage specialism or their subject specialism, and even look at their whether they've got experience in supporting a certain type of special needs for their pupils. You can view their profile, their CV, and then either book them in directly for daily supply or indicate that you're interested in potentially recruiting them for a longer term role. And that's when I step in to make sure that that process is as smooth and as effortless for you as possible. So we take out all of this complicated steps that you see on the right hand side, which I'm sure you've all got experience in, and try to make sure that the schools and teachers find the best people for their pupils, but teachers also find the best schools for them to flourish as a teacher or as a teaching assistant and develop their career. That's a very brief overview, but if you do want to find out any more about Zen Educate and what we do for schools or for teachers, please do get in contact at the end of this, again, either via social media or you can email me at olivia@zeneducate.com and we can take it there. But I will now hand over to Hannah. I'm just going to make her the host so she can share her presentation, and that should have worked now. So I'm going to hand over to you, Hannah.
Brilliant. I have the power. Okay, just bear with me. So hello, good morning. My name's Hannah Wright and I'm the Head of Science at TBAP Unity Academy, Wisbech. I teach both art and science, as Olivia said, and I'm actually a fine art and illustration graduate. I think that this gives me a unique perspective to be creative and innovative in science. I'm going to share with you some of what I do online. First things first, I'm going to tell you why I started using YouTube in the first place. My teaching journey started in a wonderful SEMH school called Trinity School, that's now known as TBAP Unity Academy. All of the learners had EHCPs, all were very reluctant learners, and most hated science because it was boring or difficult. I'll always remember what I consider the pivotal point in my teaching career. One day, one of the girls stormed out of the lesson swearing and threw a book across the room. I left my teaching assistant in control of the class to go and find the girl and see what had made her flip from calm and working to storming out and swearing at us all. She opened up and said that she felt frustrated and angry with herself because she couldn't understand what I was teaching. She said, "You've gone over it loads and everyone else gets it, so why don't I? I feel like I'm trying really hard and I just can't understand or remember what you're teaching. It doesn't sink in." So let's pause that story there for a second. Do you ever wonder how you can't remember what you did last week, but you can remember all the lyrics to a song you last heard 10 years ago? A few words or a tune as a prompt and we're all singing along to Hey Jude. Music has this amazing ability to stick in our brains. Songs we've not heard for years can be recalled word by word as soon as you hear the opening chord or the first few words. And I'm sure there's some of you at home that have already figured out the missing words here. After this comment from the female learner, this then prompted a learning conversation, which is the most valuable tool at any teacher's disposal. I only had a chance to scribble a few things down at the time, but that conversation was my promise to try something new for that learner. And you can see the learning conversation here, that she was struggling. So I said that I'd create a song on hormones phones and burn a CD of science revision songs and create them on difficult topics. We then wrote one, and it took me an entire year to pluck up the courage to put it onto YouTube. I do just want to take a moment here to emphasise the importance of learning conversations. I ask every single student I teach their opinion on the lessons at least 3 times a year. Of course, being a smaller setting, I can manage this. If you're in a mainstream setting, this may be something you have to do once or twice a year instead. I ask them if they look at their marking, if they feel like they're being challenged, what they change about the course. We discuss where they sit in the classroom, the work they do, and why they might not like science as much as their other subjects. What are these other subjects or teachers doing that I aren't doing? If you aren't open to hearing students say that they hate your lesson because of something you do, then you can't ever truly, in my opinion, be an outstanding teacher. An outstanding teacher has got to be able to listen to criticism and be willing to act on it. It's so much more valuable if the criticism is from the kids and not SLT. I want to know the opinions of every single student I teach, and I'll act on any promises that I've made them, whether it be trying a new seating plan, a new idea, or a teaching method. All of the creativity I use in my lessons is because of things that students have told me that they'd like to be changed. If what I'm doing isn't benefiting the students, then why am I doing it at all? I changed the way that we mark at TBAP Unity because I created a marking grid after the learners said that they don't look or care about their marking. There was no point spending hours marking each week when the students weren't looking at it. The new marking grid takes me less than 30 minutes to mark all my kids' books, and now more students are looking at their marking because I add funny comments or memes on them. It's this idea about engaging learners, about thinking outside the box. So why music? Well, repetition. When you practice something, you strengthen the network of neurons in your brain. Rhyme and pattern. When writing poems or songs, both the number of beats and the rhymes themselves provide clues as to what the next line is. For example, Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. You know you're after a word that rhymes with wall. It lessens the load on your brain, which now has fewer possibilities for the answer. And of course, enjoyment. When we're emotionally excited by something, the brain assumes that the information is important and works hard to store it. Your brain's going to assign more significance to music than a boring page of writing. Music can help disengage learners. They might enjoy rap music, so put the information in rap form. I've had learners make raps to beats found on YouTube and present it to the class. A group of learners could use instruments or their voices and collaborate together. This is what I used to do with my learners. It's a very unconventional science lesson, as you can imagine. Everyone loves a particular song and knows all the words to it, so why not adapt this to meet your subject? With dyslexic learners, they're not going to sit and look at revision cards as colourful and differentiated as they are. They are, however, likely to sit listening to some music or cycle to school listening to music, especially if they helped write it and enjoyed making it. We've got first-hand experience of this, and it's another reason that I continue to make revision songs. You can see on this learning conversation, the students said they enjoyed practicals, music, etc. And I promised that I'd ensure there were opportunities to create in each topic. After what felt like a lifetime developing relationships with these learners, we came to exam season. During the exam, the learners were singing the lyrics to their scribes. They knew the answers to so many questions because, oh, it says telescope, so let me sing the lyrics for the answer. I have learners that listen to the songs daily and know all of the lyrics. Learners will engage with you as you've made the effort to be a little bit braver by putting yourself out there. And I'm going to be brave and put myself out there for you, so sorry if you've got headphones in. They are separate and they're They are separate and they're balanced out, they're neutral again. Electrolysis splits apart. Ions, we call them. Some of the feedback from learners all over the country has been really positive. They say that this makes learning easy, it's catchy so it's easy to remember, that it works for their revision style, and that it's simplified complicated topics for them. Now, I'm not saying you're all going to start singing on YouTube, but this is just one of the ways it can be used, and this is how my journey started with it. And again, just to note that I'd never have done this if I hadn't had those learning conversations with students in the first place. Since the school closures, TBAP's gone completely online where possible. I made the decision to create virtual science lessons to deliver to learners. Every other day, a video goes live on YouTube. The video features me explaining a topic to learners and getting them to pause the video and complete tasks. Most learners will have been sent home with packs of work, which is of course entirely appropriate for those without IT access. However, we are relying on parents to support young people. Sometimes they may be able to talk to their subject teachers, but not necessarily when they're sitting down doing that specific subject's work. Some learners won't be able to join a live lesson due to other siblings or parents using the laptop. So this means they never miss out, as they can do the lesson whenever's convenient for them. This format allows learners to have teacher interaction or correction of any work set during the lesson, and is the closest thing to a quality lesson I can provide to my learners. The next day, I use Microsoft Teams and discuss the video and work with learners. How did they do? Were there any areas they really struggled with? I may then set up an online lesson using another system such as Seneca or Learning by Questions, but they're topics for another day. I usually have a set of exam questions or activities for learners to do based on the previous day's YouTube video. I'm essentially asking them to apply the knowledge they learned from YouTube to a question or a test situation. This format's been really successful at TBAP, and learners are engaged and ready at 9 AM for the video to premiere. And I'm going to show you a little snippet example next.
Off as a gas, so we already know that those particles are going to be able to move around a room. And if you visualize those particles on the food in the picture, they're going to be able to spread from one place to another.
As teachers, you could do an experiment on video, you could do the PE or dance lesson on YouTube, as well as a cooking lesson. You could do drama as a live Microsoft Teams lesson. We can still deliver our normal lessons, but just be more considerate of what our learners can do independently. As far as differentiation goes, I might tell my lower ability learners to only watch the first 5 minutes of the video, as the end of the video might be specifically for higher ability learners. I could do it through the tasks I set the next day, or even in the video itself if I wanted to. YouTube means learners are getting human interaction still. So I don't do anything fancy. There's tons of video software out there. What I do is take my PowerPoints and record audio and visual over the top. I have made a simple guide on how to do this, so if anybody wants it, tweet me and I'll email it to you. Most of us will have access to Microsoft PowerPoint and a webcam. It doesn't require any special skills or software particularly, as again, most of us are using Microsoft PowerPoint from day to day. You have to consider the activities that you want learners to do. Fill in the blanks, questions, maybe a research activity afterwards. For me, it was important to have my webcam film my face, as many of our learners are autistic and will benefit from physically seeing me rather than just hearing me. Because the video has to be less than 15 minutes, you as a teacher have to simplify complex topics and really focus on what you want learners to know. It's a small nugget of knowledge for your learners. YouTube is visually exciting and stimulating. There is still that human interaction, as you are there rather than a piece of paper. The human attachment is important for so many learners, whether they have additional needs or not. Strong relationships are, of course, so important in teaching. There are, of course, challenges with using YouTube for distance learning, whether it's a virtual lesson or a revision song. Some learners won't have online access, and unfortunately, I don't have an answer for this. Are learners watching the videos and doing the activities? Well, are they doing the paper-based work you sent them? YouTube's visual, it can be colourful and humorous. You could do something practical on the video or explain something with cutting-edge PowerPoint animations like I did. You can make learning more active and stimulating than sitting with paperwork. There are challenges around the amount of content taught. Are we delivering the full curriculum? Well, of course you can. If you use another program like Microsoft Teams alongside YouTube, then you can start a task one day, the next day have a YouTube lesson as the main lesson with activities or research tasks. Then the following day have a plenary test situation. You could still teach the whole lesson you want to, but you just have to be creative in how you do this. For me personally, I'm focused on a main lesson with tasks and activities that I know will take my learners between 30 and 40 minutes to watch and complete. And I then do the exam questions the next day, which takes another 40 minutes. That's a full lesson, with the only thing I'm not doing being circulating around the classroom. I acknowledge that students won't be able to do practical skills or perhaps team sports on YouTube, but we can still cover theory with them. We can still adapt our lessons to try and cover as much as we can. Going forward, these videos will be perfect for cover work. Rather than leaving worksheets for a colleague to complete with learners who often play up and say they don't understand or we've not learned this, they can essentially click play and support learners through this virtual lesson instead. Learners who are unable to come into school, perhaps due to anxiety, can be virtually taught. Likewise, excluded learners can also access a lesson rather than being sent home with a pack of work, which, let's face it, teaching staff often rush around at the end of the day trying to get together. There's a lot of potential here with YouTube. Those excellent lessons that you create can be there forever rather than doing a live meeting that won't be seen again. You can have complete control over what your video is if it's pre-recorded rather than live. Play around with it, and most importantly, embrace something new and creative into your practice. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Hannah. That was really, really enjoyable to watch and to learn a little bit more about what you've been doing at TBAP, which has obviously really helped your learners. And it's, you know, applicable not only across schools which are alternative provisions, but I certainly see this being something that's applicable for all mainstream schools, and certainly for children, like you say, who have autism, who still need to see that their teacher is engaged with their learning journey, and that they can also take ownership of their own work whilst at home. We do have a couple of questions already pre-prepared from when schools and teachers were signing up to this. So we'll go through those initially, but please, if anybody else has got any questions, please do use this time to open up the Q&A section at the bottom of this Zoom window and type in any questions that you might have there, and we will get through as many as we possibly can within the next 10 to 15 minutes or so. So Hannah, the first question we had, which is quite a popular one from our schools, obviously you're very experienced in managing your pupils' learning at home, but as a head of department, obviously you have other teachers and your own team of colleagues to manage. How do you manage your colleagues and your department remotely at the moment?
Managing them is usually done on Microsoft Teams. We as a team will have a briefing at the start and sometimes the end of the day. A lot of contact through chat on there. So yeah, just having a lot of daily contact, whether it's chat or video call. That's how we manage it.
Fantastic. I think Teams has been a very popular one to have as managing a school team remotely. Fantastic. The next question we have is around your standard 15-minute lessons and your YouTube videos. How long does that take you to prepare one of those to then post it on YouTube?
I'd say it takes me about an hour, which you can weigh up the fact, okay, so it's 15 minutes, but the activities that I'm asking the students to do, it's around about a 30 to 40-minute lesson. I'm very lucky that I do a spiral curriculum, so what I teach year 11, I also teach year 10. So I'm very fortunate that one lesson can be used multiple times. I've also started using it with Key Stage 3 and just differentiating through tasks, because then I only need to create one video and all my kids can access it. I think science, like many subjects, has this wonderful ability that you could teach the same lesson and just differentiate it, because science is science. All kids, for example, need to know about cells, but it might be that my Key Stage 3 kids, I just want them to know 3 or 4 of the labels, and then I get to GCSE and I want them to know all of them. So I think be creative in perhaps what you teach, whether you're just covering key topics that you could teach in that way, whether you're just recapping topics, or whether you want them to learn something new. Again, I think for me, I'm happy to put the extra work in for the lesson time, because I see this as what I can use this for in the future. We do have a lot of kids that perhaps might have anxiety or can't access a lesson for whatever reason. So I know that I've got a bank that I can refer kids to, which is much better than worksheets, I feel.
Fantastic. No, that's really good. We've got a couple here. Obviously you work in a secondary school with your Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4 learners.
Yeah.
Do you feel that this can also be applied to mainstream primary settings, or potential, AP primary settings as well for Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2?
Oh, 100%. I think so. There's some amazing people already on YouTube, mainly American, because they talk about like kindergarten and stuff like that, where they're very crazy on the videos. Oh my God, kids, get your pens, let's do this. So actually, there is content out there. You can create this. I think you just have to get over I feel a bit silly talking to a webcam saying, this is amazing, guys, let's do spelling or whatever it is. I think once you get over that, of course you can adapt this to any age group and any kids. You just need to think about what your kids have at home. So don't do spelling, if you want all the kids to go and get little magnetic letters out, they might not have that. So just think about what your kids have, or is there a way that you could get those supplies to your kids if you're doing some people are, for example, are dropping off food parcels. If you're doing that, can you drop off pens and pencils, magnetic letters, so that then actually you could do that with your kids? So yeah, I think you can definitely adapt it, but just bear in mind maybe the attention span, maybe a 5-minute video, maybe it's more of a fun sort of let's do something jokey, moving about, and then we'll do a bit of work. I think you know your kids more than I do, so you know what's going to engage your kids and how long you're going to keep them engaged for.
Yeah, I certainly agree with my experience with the Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2 learners, getting them active and physically doing something rather than expecting them to sit, like you say, in front of a screen for 15-30 minutes to listen to a lesson is definitely going to make more of an impact on their learning. And with you using, you know, pop songs or rap songs for your older learners, potentially we could use nursery rhymes, but, you know, sort of younger, you know, Baby Shark has been a very popular one to adapt curriculum to. So I think, yeah, I think, absolutely primary would be...
Yeah, you have to look at, obviously I'm pretty sure everyone's familiar with Joe Wicks, the body coach who's doing PE lessons every morning. Kids love him because he's daft and silly and getting them to jump about and do silly things. So I know that's PE, but just bring that to your other lessons. And it might be that you can't tick every box off the curriculum, but I'm going to be honest, I don't think it's reasonable to ask everybody to cover the entire curriculum in the same way with the same assessment. I think if our kids are involved and happy and healthy and doing some learning, even if it's only half of what I'd want them to do by the summer, I'm happy with that, considering. So
yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, really, really insightful there. I'm just going through a couple of the questions we've got in the chat box. Let's have a look. So we have a lot to do with, yeah, the Key Stage 3, Key Stage 1, 2 and reception learners. We've got an interesting one here. What equipment do you use for your PowerPoints and your YouTube videos? Do you have external microphones? Do you have things that you can, where you can use a separate electronic pen if you're, you know, annotating PowerPoint slides?
Yeah, so for me, I literally use webcam and PowerPoint. In an ideal world, if you had one of the plug-in pens, that'd be amazing because you could literally draw on the screen. Try doing that with a laptop mouse; it doesn't look very good. So I think if you have that, I think this is all about using what you've got. Don't go out and buy loads of stuff. If you've already got a pen, that'd be amazing. I'd love to do that, to draw funny diagrams and models. It's what I do often in lessons. I tend to do weird analogies so that the kids understand things. So if you've got it, use it. But all you need is a webcam and PowerPoint. If you want to do revision songs, I do recommend an external microphone in a program called Audacity, which is free to download. You can download a instrumental of your music track, and then you can record audio by having your headphones on and whatnot. That it just makes the sound a little bit clearer. But likewise, if you haven't got all that, just if you want to do a revision song, then just record it on your webcam. And no one's expecting Oscar-worthy content, so just use what you've got. And yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think it's, you know, making the most of what you have is sort of what we're all about at the moment in this time. Is we're certainly finding different uses for all the things that we've got at home. So fantastic. And for those of us who aren't necessarily, you know, au fait with YouTube and how to set one up, how easy is it to create a YouTube account and to upload videos or PowerPoint presentations onto YouTube?
Really, really easy. So with the if anybody wants to go, like I say, let me know. So what you have to do is export the PowerPoint as a video, which it sounds complicated. It isn't. It's within PowerPoint. It's just how you save it, because you can't upload an actual PowerPoint to YouTube, so you can upload the video instead. Setting up an account is like any social media. It's really easy. You chuck in your details, you have an account, and to upload a video, there's a little box, and you just drag in the video you've made. It uploads relatively quickly. You put a description and that's it. And you can obviously have it go up immediately. You can set it so that it premieres potentially at like 9 a.m. the next morning. It's really, really easy to use. Yes, don't be scared by using YouTube.
Brilliant. And obviously you are a big fan of YouTube, but earlier on in your presentation you mentioned other online platforms for teaching. Do you have any preferred ones, or like do you have like pros and cons for the ones that you use currently, or any other feedback you've had from your colleagues?
So I've looked at quite a few. I have looked a little bit at Google Classroom. I think for me, with having such a small body of students, some of these other platforms just aren't ideal. There is something, I can't think what it's called, like Pickler or something, which is this amazing thing with cards that you hold up to vote. Amazing, but not if you've got 8 kids in your class. I think for me, what's been the most successful is Seneca, which is free, which was something my kids were using before. So again, I've not asked my kids to use anything that we weren't using before, because they were already using it, and actually every kid uses YouTube, so you're not asking them to suddenly download and use new things that they don't know. Seneca is amazing. Definitely has Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4. Off the top of my head, I don't know if it has Key Stage 1 and 2, because obviously I don't access that, I don't use it. But that's amazing, and you as a teacher, you can see how long the students have studied, how many questions they've answered, what they got right. You can set assignments. So if you're then having phone calls with staff, you can then obviously, with children, you can then obviously call them and say, look, I noticed you struggled at this area, let's go over it again. Learning by questions is another one. I just signed up for the 60-day trial before all of this, and thank God I did. I really recommend signing up for the trial. So you pick a topic, Key Stage 1 to Key Stage 3 and 4, so it's the whole way through. You pick a topic, and you set activities, you give the kids the code, and you can see question by question how your kids are doing. So if you're using Microsoft Teams, you can say, right, Jack, stop, I've seen that you're getting question 4 wrong, let me load it up, let's talk about it, let's get the answer right. And then you can see the little red box go green as, yeah, he's got it. I really recommend, if you've not heard of it, having a look at that, and try it, especially as a 60-day trial, because I really think it's such a good resource out there at the minute. So yeah, I really recommend those two.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, thank you so much for that. I think that's going to be really helpful, just to have somebody who's got personal experience of using a particular software, and not necessarily just going off the online reviews. And so like you can talk us through exactly what you found to be really helpful for your learners, and I'm sure that other teachers and staff on the call will be hopefully going up for that trial very soon. And I think we've just got time for one more question, 1 or 2. So if anyone else has got any other questions, please do pop them in the Q&A. You mentioned assessment.
Oh, sorry, you broke up slightly.
Assignments there.
Hello? Oh, I don't know if that's me. Oh, there you go. I don't know if that was me or
that.
you. Sorry, no, you broke up then.
Yeah, no, that was me, sorry. I was just going on about the assessment and assignment. So how are you recording or tracking progress for your pupils at the moment?
It's kind of like a double answer this. Personally, I'm not really focusing on assessment, because I don't think it's accurate. I think even if kids are doing tests and assignments, I still can't accurately prove that that's their independent work, because actually they could be sitting there with a parent, or they could be Googling the answers. So personally, I don't think the focus should be on assessment right now, because you can't prove it. I think just do a solid baseline when we're all back to school would be much better. I think as far as I don't like using the word assessing because it contradicts what I've said, but any assessing I am doing would just be through marking, is that the kids are taking photos, or parents are taking photos of work, and I'm marking it, and keeping a copy of it that way. So I've kind of got a digital marking of work which I'm using, but I'm not going to use that to assess the kids, because I don't think it's accurate. So if you don't have to, I really wouldn't focus on assessment right now. It's not accurate.
No, fantastic. And I think one final question before we have to unfortunately get going and let everyone get back to their day, is when you are in your Microsoft Teams and you have all of your learners on board at one time during the class, how do you manage any sort of disruptions or disengagement from your students? Then obviously it's a lot harder to do behaviour management. remotely?
Yeah, I think it, for me, I've not had a huge amount of disengagement. I think, to be honest, it comes from, I have really strong relationships with my kids, so actually they want to be there. You know, we don't have 100% of our kids online. A lot of them haven't got IT access, but those that we have got, you know, I think it comes down to what you had before a little bit. As far as kids being disengaged whilst you're teaching them, I think, yeah, look at what you're teaching them then. So are they all sitting on their webcams whilst you're just talking at them? Because I'd switch off, to be honest with you. But if you've got your pen, or even just stick a piece of paper up behind you if you've got it, and can you draw stuff? Can you use humour? I just think you've got to get on the kids' level. So memes, funny, stupid things, get on their level and you'll have them engaged. And I just think, loosen up a little bit in terms of, don't be so regimented of, we must learn this today and you must do all this, this and this. I think it's part of the kids' well-being and your well-being as well. Have a bit of fun, use this time to perhaps build or continue strengthening relationships you have with kids. You can do that by not necessarily, you know, asking them to write essays, for example. I don't know what kids, none of the kids I work with would do that, for example. So just think about what your kids will do and get onto their level a little bit, because you've got to be more exciting than the good weather or than the PlayStations. So you've got to be exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's a really good point. And like you said, yeah, like use this opportunity to remind those students, and certainly students who either have additional needs or are in an alternative provision or pupil referral unit, that you haven't just abandoned them. You've not just because you're not in the classroom together, you're still there for them. You're still engaged with their learning journey and like with their development.
Yeah.
And I think just getting on their level, like you said, will really build that relationship when you eventually do go back to school and they remember, oh, Miss and Sir didn't, you know, they weren't just setting me boring work. They were actually really engaging with me. So no, that's really good advice. Thank you so much, Hannah. And thank you for joining us today, sharing all of your experiences and answering a lot of questions. I'm sure that the participants on the line will still have many more, but we will have to bring this webinar to a close to let everybody get back to their day. We will be sending round the recording of this webinar and some more details in a follow-up email with all the details of what Hannah's talked through today, as well as possibly some links to the software that you mentioned there that everybody has now started really looking into and Googling where they can get their 60-day trial. So I think that's really good insight that you've given there, Hannah. So thank you for everybody for attending today. We've really enjoyed having everybody on, and hopefully you've all taken something away from Hannah's experiences and learned a little bit more about what we do. And we look forward to having some of you hopefully join us in the future for more of these webinar sessions to come. Fantastic. All right, thank you so much, everybody, and we'll be sending around those emails soon. So thank you very much for joining, and have a wonderful rest of the day, and I hope you're all staying safe and well.
Bye.
All right, bye, Hannah.